Hey, what up? This video is made in response to some challenging questions posed for vegans politically by a guy named David J. Kelly, who is now an ex-vegan. I also think he's an idiot. However, to give credit where it's due, he is raising important questions, and 99% of you vegans on the internet don't. This video is going to consist of a critique and a constructive response to the arguments put forth by David J. Kelly. You can click on the link I'm going to provide below this video. It's a waste of 6 minutes of your life. I think he's a complete idiot. But if you look at the videos made on most of these channels from people we respect and celebrate as leaders in the vegan community, they're neither asking nor answering any of these questions. They're not dealing with political or ethical aspects of veganism at all. So, in some sense, I respect him and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about something a lot more substantial than what you ate for breakfast this morning, or how much fun it is to go swimming, jumping off a cliff in Copenhagen, or fill in the blank. Picking out 3 issues from this video I'm going to react to. One is that he uses the words realistic and sustainable throughout the video in an unexamined way. And this is something in politics you got to learn to watch. You got to learn to jump on people for this kind of weakness. He says it is not sustainable, without defining it, without explaining why, that somehow it's unsustainable to eat absolutely zero meat, as if implicitly it would be more sustainable to eat the type of diet he's suggesting, which is what we would call a reducitarian diet. It's less meat, but not zero meat. He's actually proposing eating meat 1 day a week with some other caveats. So sustainability has 2 dimensions here. One is ecological, environmental sustainability, right? And you can even wrap that up with economic sustainability. Why would that be more ecologically sustainable? And I don't even have to spell it out. There's no argument there. There's no argument that it is more environmentally sustainable to eat some meat rather than none, especially when you're talking about a minority of people like vegans. If you're talking about, a few tens of thousands of people or a tiny minority globally, why would you advise those people to shift from... So the ecological argument is a non-starter. There's a second dimension to sustainability, right? And that's psychological. That's what he really means. He's suggesting to you that psychologically, it's more sustainable to have a little bit rather than none at all. Why are parents so alarmed when they find out their children are using cocaine? Hey, let's flip it. Why would you, as a child of any age, be alarmed when you find out your parents are using cocaine? What if it's just a little bit? What if it's just 1 day a week? What if it's just a few times a month or a few times a year? A little bit is the hardest thing to sustain in the world. That's why we all advocate zero cocaine. We don't say use less. We don't say use it in moderation. We don't say use it once in a while. And when you do the research on this, I won't mention why. I did end up looking at this one point. One of the least harmful drugs physiologically that people use is heroin. Heroin doesn't have the kind of negative effects in your body that many other habits do in our society. But nobody in their right mind would tell you that a little bit is more sustainable than none at all. Okay? And I'm not going to spell it for you. I think you guys know why. Okay? The reality is, in terms of why would it be unrealistic for me to say, you know what? I went and visited a grade 5 classroom yesterday. Whole bunch of little kids who were all in grade 5. And I thought, I wish that none of you ever even try heroin. I hope that you all go through your whole lives with zero heroin use. Why would that be unrealistic? Why would that be unsustainable? Why would anyone say to me, oh, come on, you should be realistic? A little bit of heroin here and there doesn't do any harm. Now, on a scientific and medical level, believe it or not, there is an argument for that, where you can just measure brain damage and effects on your kidneys and whatever. You can say, you know what? Human body can tolerate, heroin here and there. Psychologically, if that's the kind of sustainability we're talking about, no, homeboy. 0 is sustainable. A little bit really is worse than none at all. He goes from this into an argument on vegans being politically inflexible and intolerant toward anyone who is non-vegan. Well, there's certainly cause for alarm. There's certainly plenty of idiots on the internet who make what he says here sound reasonable. But I disagree. On this channel, in many different videos, I've made a political comparison to quitting smoking and to political movements that are trying to get everyone to quit smoking. Let's say I'm a member of such a movement. No, I'm not, and in many countries in the world, that's really in the past. I mean, normally a lot of the campaigns to get governments to oppose smoking are already over because they've achieved their ends, and it's not as highly politicized anymore. It's widely accepted that smoking is a bad thing, that everyone should either minimize smoking or quit smoking. Does that mean that on an individual basis, if I have a friend who's a smoker, if I know someone who smokes cigarettes, does that mean I'm going to treat them like a jerk? Does that mean I'm going to be cruel to them, personally or politically? Does that mean I'm going to persecute them? Does that mean I'm going to want to physically hurt them? If I have a friend who smokes cigarettes, and at different times in my life I have had friends who were smokers, I can be their friend. I can respect their opinion. I can respect them as a human being. And still, every single time they smoke cigarettes, I regard them as doing something wrong. I don't think it's a mixed bag. I don't think that smoking a little bit is okay and smoking a lot is a problem. No, I want my friends to smoke 0. I would like, ideally, the whole world to smoke 0. That's a goal I want to achieve, and politically and socially, many societies, not all, but in many Western countries, their governments will openly say, yeah, ideally in the future, our target is to have a 0% rate of smokers. Whether or not they're really doing what it takes to achieve that is another story. But they'd like to see smoking reduced and eliminated. That does not mean I am your enemy if you are a smoker. It really doesn't. It's a subtle but obvious point. I guess I can leave it at that. But the fact, and again, there's no moral ambiguity in that. Smoking is bad. If you smoked a cigarette today, you did something bad. But that doesn't mean I hate you. That doesn't mean I'm angry at you. And on the other hand, if I'm friends with you, I'm never going to say to you that smoking is okay. I think that each day that goes past, you're wasting an opportunity to quit smoking. And you really should, for your own sake and to make the world a better place in so many ways. But still, that does not mean I think the solution to this problem is beating you, oppressing you, putting you in prison, totalitarian measures, or any of these other ideas that he attaches to the simple notion of a binary distinction between right and wrong. Yes, smoking is wrong. It's 100% wrong. Every time you do it, it's wrong. It's not that a little bit is okay. It's never okay. Nevertheless, I can have a compassionate and a strategic approach to how we're going to bring about that social change. And look, I've never been a smoker, but I mean the studies you read on the addictive effects of smoking, I think cigarettes are much, much harder to quit than meat, dairy, leather. Nobody goes into withdrawal when they quit leather. I mean, stop wearing wool. You don't get the shakes. I mean, when you think about it, in many ways, the struggle to get people to quit smoking is much more difficult than a struggle to get them to quit meat, right? Even if there were no health benefits, that would still be true. But there's a positive sense in the 21st century that that's a struggle we're all a part of. Now, again, it's not in all countries in the world. It's possible you're living in one of the countries where people are still encouraged by their government to smoke cigarettes and people don't want to admit that it's a problem or what have you. But most of the scientifically advanced world now, in a sense, the debate is over about whether smoking is good or bad, and the question now about the ways and means to bring about that kind of change. And yes, that is politically what I want with veganism. That's the progress I want to see. And there's no reason to think there's a dictatorship involved in that. And if you look around at the governments of the world and say which have been the most effective and which have been the least effective in reducing cigarette smoking, I don't think you would find historically that dictatorships have been especially successful. I think you could look on a country-by-country basis who has really had the most effective government measures to try to bring that about. But yes, it would make the world a better place if you quit eating meat. It would make the world a better place if governments anywhere took up policies to reduce and eliminate meat consumption. And yes, there's a binary distinction. Each and every time you eat meat, you're doing something immoral. And I don't know, everyone I know eats meat. I have no vegan friends in real life. So I mean, all my friends currently, outside of YouTube, eat meat. So again, this idea of that there's some other kind of conflict implicit in that, it's nonsense. And I don't know, he must know it is. This guy was a vegan for 9 years. On some level, I don't think he'd have any kind of snappy comeback to what I've set out here. Thirdly and finally, out of many wrong-headed answers, wrong-headed reasons he gives for why he's gone back from being vegan to eating meat after 9 years, he talks about anthropomorphism. He talks about vegans projecting human attributes onto animals. And now this is somewhere where my version of veganism is really very different from all you pet-loving, dog-cuddling vegans. All right? I've been very clear on this channel that I also regard the domestication of animals as immoral. Okay? And I do believe that when you take a dog and try to train it to behave in human society, that is anthropomorphism. I think human beings who own pets, who own companion animals, are projecting human characteristics and human qualities on animals, and that is part of the problem. However, what this fellow, David J. Kelly, has suggested is that all veganism is based on anthropomorphism. That's dead wrong. If I respect a lion, I can simply respect a lion as a lion. I don't need it to behave in human society. I don't need it to be cute or cuddly. I don't need it to like me or love me. I don't need it to appreciate me. I don't need to feed it treats or snacks and have it act grateful. The relationship to a pet involves some very psychologically disturbing aspects. I've had all these ridiculous excuses sent to me by emails. People claiming that they have a symbiotic relation with their pets. Symbiosis? Are you kidding me? You're talking about two animals that have a symbiotic relationship where one animal cuts off the balls of the other animals. Spaying and neutering your pet, castration. You call that symbiosis? God, look up symbiosis. I have gotten from vegans the same stupid excuses that meat eaters make for eating meat, in very close parallel, made by vegans for pet ownership, in response to my earlier video. But yes, I think that pet ownership does involve anthropomorphism, and that is part of the problem. But if I simply look at a wild elephant, and in the whole world there are very few places where wild elephants still exist. I was watching the last wild elephants disappear in Laos and Myanmar. I could say a lot more about that. I don't want this elephant to amuse me. I don't want it to entertain me. I don't want it to reflect any of my human characteristics. I'm not looking for that in this elephant. I can simply respect its autonomy and independence and not want to disturb it. I can simply want human beings to leave enough forest intact so that this animal does not get driven to extinction. Right? So again, the wilderness-based paradigm, the habitat conservation paradigm, approaches those issues in a completely different way. And I'm not asking you to stop eating pork because a pet can be cute and cuddly, because a pig can be just as much of a pet as a dog. To me, that's completely the wrong way to approach the issue. And that does fall prey to this argument that David J. Kelly has presented. If your argument is, don't eat pigs because they will suffer as much as a dog. Don't eat pigs because pigs can be a cute and cuddly pet if you love them and care for them, if you project your human characteristics onto them. No. A pet is completely different from the way an animal behaves in the wild. If a wild boar is out there, I got fan mail from someone who lived in Southeast Asia, a woman in the Philippines. She had been attacked by a wild boar. She was writing into me about that, what it's like being attacked by a wild boar. She wrote into me about being attacked by packs of feral dogs. I mean, she was. This is the one person writing into me where it's just like all I can say back is, "Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Wild dogs, feral dogs, wild boars." And she was saying this vegan stuff about respecting rats and never killing rats. Well, back in the Philippines, to actually wake up with rats biting through your skin, with rats gnawing at you, to, lift up the mattress of your bed and see underneath that there are rats, there's a nest of rats giving birth and breeding. Yeah, there are self-defense issues. There's, nature red in tooth and claw. There are all these contradictions that we as vegans have to deal with. The point is, a wilderness-based approach means my argument doesn't rest on pigs being cute and cuddly. It doesn't rest on asking you to sympathize with the suffering of a pig in the same way as you sympathize with the suffering of a dog. I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking you to sympathize with rats. My point is, rats should exist out in the woods, not in my bedroom. Pigs should exist out in the woods where they are terrifying to human beings. They're not cute and cuddly at all. And I want you to let those pigs exist as pigs, not as a plaything for human beings, not as an accoutrement to human civilization. I want you to respect the pig as a pig, not as something with human values or characteristics projected onto it, not as something with human emotions projected onto it, right? In the same way that we respect a lion without imagining that it really has any, shall we say, common ground with ourselves.